Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you again with another hero deck profile, and this is going to be the hero deck that I actually took to my recent local tournament, which was a charity tournament. You know, you bring 5 cans of food, you get to play, every round you win you get a pack, and I somehow managed to go undefeated despite not being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh for the past month, which, you know, pretty fun, pretty cool. I'm really enjoying the deck right now. I feel like it has a lot of really good matchups right across the board. There's still like a couple of really sketchy matchups, but for the most part, this deck honestly just handles the current metagame very well, and I'm pleasantly surprised because my locals, while it's not the most competitive, it does have a lot of meta-relevant decks. So you will see decks like Rescue Ace, Manadium, Tier Element, Pearly, you know, the works. And being able to go undefeated in a field like that is still pretty cool, even if it is locals. And as I always say, locals don't matter, but that's a different discussion for a different day. So with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into the deck profile. Now, kicking off the monster lineup, we are going to be playing 3 Elemental Hero Stratos. Now, normally I play 2, but for this tournament, I just decided to try out 3 for once, just to see what like all the hype was about. And I gotta say, I never really felt like the third one made a difference. Most of the time it was basically just like another side out option. And there's a couple of other cards that I would have much rather played than the third Stratos, but you know, 3 is fine. If you want to play it, it's up to you. Just for me personally, I feel like 2 is still the perfect number. And then to go with the 3 Stratos, I still play 2 Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. So you're not always going to be able to OTK your opponent. And if you're going first, and your opponent somehow ends up breaking your board, you're going to want to have some kind of grind game. And double Shadow Mist just allows you to have that because it can search out your mass changes, it can get you any hero for your follow-up on the next turn. Just a really solid card, and I definitely think 2 is still the way to go. And then for the other Elemental Heroes, you play the 1 of Liquid Soldier, the 1 of Elemental Hero Neos, and then I decided to try out Elemental Hero Blazeman at the very last second, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. So this is basically just like another avenue for you to be able to have access to your polymerizations a lot more quickly. And I mean that literally because I play more than one polymerization. And we're never using the flourish effect just because it shuts off so many of your potential plays. But for the first effect of being able to summon it, whether it's normal or special summon to search poly, is just invaluable, especially because we do play cards like Crosskeeper, right? So we play our Crosskeeper. We can go like normal Stratos, add Blazeman, activate Crosskeeper, especially like for those weird hands where you don't have any other elemental heroes, that you can special summon your blazeman, search your poly, and then you can still make plays off of that. So you know, the potential's there. It's not like the greatest card. Obviously vyon is pretty much better in every single way, but it's still a really cool card, and I really enjoyed it for what it did. And that's it for the elemental heroes. And then we have the destiny heroes. So you have the 2 destiny hero malicious, the 1 destiny hero denier, and the 1 destiny hero plasma. I am not playing Dark Angel in the main because I just think that card is terrible right now. There are so many decks that play cards like Link Karibo in the main that can just link it off, or they can just, like, you play against Tillman, right? They go normal summon Rhino Heart, and if you don't have like a mass change for Dark Claw, they can just send any tier limit monster and then fuse away to something like Destiny Hero Dangerous. Like I said, Link Karibo's played in a lot of decks, whether it's Fire Kings, Rescue Ace, Pearly. It just, the list goes on and on and on. And for game 1, mainly just because you don't know if you're going first or second, Dark Angel is such a big liability. So for that reason, I don't include it in the main, but you should 100% still cite it. But yeah, that's just me. And then like on top of that, in order to get like max effectiveness with the Dark Angel, that means you have to play cards such as like Rivalry of the Warlords, right? And if you're playing Rivalry of the Warlords in the main deck, that means you're banking on going first, which is just not a possibility for me just because I'm terrible at winning die rolls. So I will be going second, which means those cards are going to be dead a lot of the majority of the time. So yeah, I know it may be different for you, but that's just me. I just cannot fathom playing Dark Angel in the main right now. It's just not a good card, at least for game 1. Post sighting is a different story, but that's neither here nor there. And then for the Vision Heroes, you have the 3 Vision Hero Faris, the 2 Vision Hero Vyon, and the 2 Vision Hero Increase. For Increase, doesn't matter if you play 1, 2, or 3, you're going to draw them all anyway, so you might as well just play 2. So you can try to at least have 1 in the deck, even though you will be drawing the other one at some point. It's just an inevitability. And then for the final monster, we play 1 Cross Keeper. I love this card, whether it's being able to special summon an elemental hero monster from your grave or your hand, and then the additional effect of being able to draw 2 basically means it becomes an additional liquid soldier that you can thin through your deck pretty easily. Now obviously with cards such as like Droll and Lockbird in the format, this card does become less effective, but it's still worth the risk to run it. And depending on how you build your extra deck too, this is going to be like one of your main ways that you can actually play through cards like Droll and Lockbird, because it gives you access to rank 4 monsters, which a lot of the time you're just not going to be able to do normally in a hero deck, unless you open up like a Hero Lives, for example, but it's not always going to be the case. So with that, That's the monster lineup, and now we can move on to the spells and traps. Now, for the most part, the spell lineup is pretty standard. You're gonna not really see much deviation just because so many of the cards that we have to play at like 3 or their maximum 1 or whatever. So we're playing 3 A Hero Lives, 3 Fusion Destinies, and then the one card that I feel like most hero players aren't taking advantage of is 3 Super Polymerization. So this card is honestly phenomenal just for me personally because, like I said earlier, I'm terrible at winning the die roll, so I have to pretty much try and break my opponent's boards. And while trying to build for this deck, I was considering different cards, right? Like I could try Forbidden Droplet, I could try Infinite Impermanence, I can try Droll and Lockbird just to try and prevent my opponent from actually being able to play. But ultimately, I decided on playing Super Polymerization because I feel like it has really good coverage across the board, right? Compared to most matchups, Super Poly is going to be able to pretty much break their boards consistently, whether it's Rescue Ace, Fire King, even like Pearly, right? If they use their Noir once or twice, the moment it loses its 5 material protection, Super Poly just can straight up end the game right then and there because you just make your escuridao and you can just win the game. But in addition to that, I'm not playing the Omni Heroes just because most of them are pretty much terrible, right? It's just absolute zero, and then escuridao when you're playing Fusion Destiny because you're locked into darks. But I am playing Super Poly targets to help mitigate that, but just because they're so impactful and so super effective in a lot of matchups, whether it's Garura, Muddragon, and the third card that I'm going to keep a secret for later. But yeah, this card, MVP of the day, without a doubt. There's so many games that I just won because I had the Super Poly, I was able to break the opponent's board. And even though by using Super Poly, you do turn off cards like Crosskeeper because you summon a non-hero monster, it's honestly fine because being able to get rid of key threats and then even without the Crosskeeper, you typically have enough gas in your hand to be able to just break your opponent's board and OTK them regardless. So yeah, really cool card, really good, I love it. And then to go with the Super Polys, we're playing 2 regular Polymerizations. So I really enjoy playing 2 Polymerizations in Modern Hero just because I feel like it offers you a lot of flexibility that you otherwise normally wouldn't have, right? And it lets you play a completely different game because you're not required to go into cards such as like Extra Hero Wonder Driver on the very first turn, and so you can hold off, conserve resources, and then try to use it on your next turn when you want to go for game, or you're 100% going to be able to go for game. And because let's face it, if you're going for Wonder Driver on the first turn, you're typically just going to reset the Polymerization that you already used, and after that your Wonder Driver is going to be gone for the rest of the game unless you play more than one, which some people do, you know, more power to them. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the flexibility that the second one offers you is just invaluable. And then to go with those, we're going to be playing 2 Triple Tactics Talent. In addition to Super Poly, this is also one of the cards that I decided to main deck, and phenomenal. There are so many hand chips right now that this card's pretty much always going to be live. And since I always lose the die roll, that means you're always going to be face down with something that you can steal as well. The card just does everything. Then 2 mass changes. You can play 2, you can play 3, you can play 1. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that you're going to have access to Darklaw as soon as possible because Darklaw auto wins so many matchups currently. And then for the 1-ofs, you play the 1 Call by the Grave, the 1 Reinforcement of the Army, the 1 Foolish Burial, and the 1 Miracle Fusion. I don't think you need E-Emergency Call just because the deck is already super consistent with what it can do. And as far as like 1-ofs go, this is pretty much good enough. Like Foolish and Rhoda are basically Emergency Call, but better because they can have like a wider range of targets. Call by the Grave basically acts as your 3rd Triple Tactics talent, or you can just cut this and play the 3rd talent if you want instead. And then Miracle Fusion is Miracle Fusion. And that's it for the spells. And then for the 1 trap, we just play the 1 Favorite Contact. Card's good, you know, being able to summon Shining Enforcer during your opponent's turn, blow up a potential at like typically at minimum you're blowing up 2 to 3 cards, and you can just straight up end the game right then and there, especially when you combine it with Darklaw or Enforcer. And yeah, card's just really good. And even if you don't make Shining Neos, right, you can still make other stuff. Say you didn't have access to Fusion Destiny, but you have all your Destiny Hero monsters in the graveyard. This can bring out Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Or another cool play that I did was I got drolled. So all I did was basically, I went a Hero Liz, I summoned Shadow Mist, search Mass Change, I got drolled. So I summoned Darklaw, and that was basically it. And then on my with this set obviously, and during my opponent's turn they summoned a monster to attack over the Darklaw. During the battle phase I flipped Favorite Contact, summon Elemental Hero Sunrise, and then they couldn't attack and they wasted their battle phase, and because of that I was able to finish them off on my next turn. So you know, this card has a lot of really cool applications that outside of just summoning Shining Neos Wingman. And with that, that's the main deck. 40 cards like always. I'll never go over 40. I don't care what anyone says. You want to be as consistent as possible. And now we can finally move on to the Xtra deck. Now, thanks to Super Poly being in the deck, the Xtra deck is pretty tight, so there may be some controversial cards in here, but it's fine, honestly. I don't really care. So we play the 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp, the 1 Garura Wings of Resonant Life, and then for the final Super Poly target, we play one Dragonite Draco Quest. This is pretty much in there solely for like the Vanadium decks and like the Synchron Turbo decks, which I figured I was going to be seeing a lot more because the last time that I went to locals, which is like, a month ago, those decks were literally everywhere. But I guess the hype died off, or they just all got too scared of Droll or whatever. But I still think it's perfectly fine. I'd rather be safe than sorry. But if you want, you can just cut this card and play something like Abyss Dweller or Baguska instead, just because those cards do help you a lot more when you do end up getting drolled. And the fact of the matter is, Droll is becoming a lot more popular in the format, and something like this may just become a liability, but for now, I think it's perfectly fine. But that's it for the Super Poly targets. I don't play like Drago Stapelia or anything like that just because I don't really think it comes up too often. And plus, like I said, the Xtra deck is really tight. Then for the links, we're going to be playing 1 Extra Hero Infernal Devicer to search out your Neos, 1 Extra Hero Wonder Driver, and then 2 Extra Hero Cross Crusader. Pretty standard lineup. The only one that I don't play is Dread Decimator, and that's just because I think he's terrible, honestly. I literally think he's just a waste of resources because, let's face it, Heroes as a deck has no problem getting to 8k damage without it. So a lot of the times when you're making it, you're just kind of flexing, or you're playing cards that benefit from a boost like Dystopia, which I'm not doing. But yeah, I feel like that's perfectly fine for this lineup. Dread Decimator is basically just like a 1 more card. And then for the fusion monsters that are based on heroes, we have 2 Master Hero Darklaw, MVP. Every time he came out, I basically won the game. 1 Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. You don't need to play more than 1 because Cast Hero is not a deck, and your Xtra deck is not getting ripped apart anymore. 1 Elemental Hero Escuridao. As I mentioned, when you activate Fusion Destiny, you're locked into Darks. So this is going to be the only Elemental Hero Omni Fusion that you can actually summon. And it does come up a lot too. Especially with because so many cards in this game are dark, so if you have like a hero plus a Super Poly, you can just use those 2 to make escuridao, and then in addition to that, since it's the dark, you can mass change it into Darklaw. Then you play the 1 Elemental Hero Sunrise, the 1 Elemental Hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage, the 1 Wake Up Your Elemental Hero, and then lastly Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman. And with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!